G'day and welcome once again to Off Topic on Point, where the conversation might lead a different direction, but we always arrive on point. I'm once again joined by incredible friends for many, many years, decades, Dr. Janine and Odette, and welcome to another episode of. Today I want to speak about the conversation that changed everything. Now, there's a famous song by Bryan Adams that says the summer of 69. Now, it wasn't the summer of 69, but it was the summer of 1994, where me and one of my friends, Christo de Priya, we were sitting on the boundary wall of their house with his dad, Uncle Moni. Swam the afternoon into the evening, and we were just sitting there looking over the park that was opposite their house, close to the primary school that we attended. And Uncle Moni said that you two boys have what it takes. One day you guys are going to play cricket for South Africa. And I mean, we were 12 years old, but I remember that conversation just stirred something within my heart, stirred something within the way I saw myself and the way that we approached sport, in primary school, in high school. We gave it a good shot, and obviously circumstances turn out differently. But that conversation just sparked something within me. I believe, a desire, and almost a conviction of living up to what this gentleman saw within us. It was the father of one of my best friends from school. And that conversation stays with me many, many times. There's many times that I go back to that conversation and I draw from it, because it was a time where we had a lot of aspirations. I mean, we were young. I mean, just two boys from Boksburg. How will we ever, make it into the national squad? However, within our own rights, I mean, there's so many things that we've done, we've achieved. And I want to attribute part of it to that conversation. And so my question today to the two of you is, have you had similar conversations, one conversation that just sparked something within your life that, I don't like to use the word that transformed your life or changed the trajectory of your life, but it was a conversation looking back today that was really like, I can attest a lot of what I've done to that single conversation.
I think for me, if I go back, I was a similar age. I was still probably 12 because it was the end of my grade 6 year, and we just chose the prefects for the next year. Principal at the time, Meneer Erasmus, then wanted to gather us in a room and kind of just speak to us. And I still remember the class that we gathered in. It was one of my favorite teachers, and where I sat in the class. And when he started talking, he said, I just want to share with you, congratulations and all the stuff that goes with it. But he said that if there's one thing that he wishes that somebody told him at this age, it would be to really get to know yourself. And that was almost it. I mean, we were literally in the class for about 3 minutes, and then he's like, I'm ready to walk out. Does anyone have questions? That was how short that was. And then he looked at us and he could really just see we're not getting this. And then he just started to elaborate a little bit. And he said, you need to know who you really are. You need to know what's on the inside of you. You need to know what you're capable of. And you are the only person that can figure that out. And that, I don't know why, but I grabbed onto that with my heart, my mind, my body, my soul, and I started getting to know myself. And I realized that when you're that young, you think you know, and then you actually know nothing, and then you think you know again, and then you know even less, and you go through this process. But that's the process of identity. And if I look at it today, most of the things that I deal with and that I speak with on strategy sessions, whether it's the identity of a company or the identity of a person, all those things leads to breakthrough. So it was one moment that had not changed the trajectory of my life, but it definitely lined up the trajectory of my life and where I was heading. And I see that decision that I made that day in many things. So that was my moment.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I like the subtitle that you used there, the process of identity, because that's certainly a thing. It doesn't happen at once, Like, it would be great to say that there's one thing, just change everything, but it's a process. It's a It's steps that we take towards, becoming. And I really like that phrase, the process of identity. Odette, for you, one conversation that sparked it all?
No,
Yeah, the obvious.
there wasn't a conversation. If I think back to when I was very, very little, I went to my parents probably when I was 5 and said to them, I'm too big for these kids. I need to go to school. I'm ready. Teachers didn't agree. I fought and I went to school at the age of 5 when everyone else had to wait until they were 6. That meant I was behind everyone else. I struggled to keep up, but I didn't care. I was there. I was going to school. And if I think about the conversations or things that people said at the time, my brother's teacher had said to me, there's no hope for me. That specific teacher said, die enigste hoop vir jou is die ashoop. Now, I don't know how to accurately translate that into English, but it's the only hope for you would be the rubbish heap. In Afrikaans, it sounds very different. So that's one conversation that I can remember. And I was like, oh, really? I'll show you. That's so, I didn't have a super inspiring moment. However, for me, the moment that sparked a similar thought was, I talk about it in my book in 2018 when Johan and I were standing outside Tiger Wheel and Tire, the most riveting conversation that I was in front of Tiger Wheel and Tire. And I looked at Johan and I said to him, surely there must be more. It was January, the kids, we had just taken Annabelle to her first day of school. Brianna wasn't born yet. And I looked at him and I said to him, there must be more. This can't be it. And that for me sparked the thought or the journey of identity and discovering who I am. And it was a really long process. And I only started talking about it recently.
No, okay. When I look at process, Odette, and what I found is I actually drew out a timeline of our lives. And I was doing baby, toddler, then as we go, right? Teenagers and so on and so on and so forth. And you know what I realized is how many life events takes place from the day you are born until, as an example, you get married. All those little seasons in between, there's so many of them and they're actually so quick. So if you get born, you're a baby, probably 1 to 2 years old, I can't remember. I actually have a picture of this. I'll send it to you because maybe we can just send it to the viewers as well. So 1 to 2 is your baby years, then your toddler years, then your teenage years. Most of them is 2 years, 2 years, then it goes 4 years, 4 years, 4 years, then you're now considered an adult as an example. But in that time, you go to school, you go to, wat is kleuterskool? It's creche, right?
Kindergarten.
So you go to primary school, you go to high school. In America and other countries, it's different. But you go through these phases in a very small period of your life. You have to choose what you're going to be one day in that little period of your life. It's actually crazy the amount of things and the weight of decisions that you go through. And the changes that happens in you, in your brain, in your body, from baby to teenager, then teenager, there's so many changes that happen. And you are responsible for all these decisions. Not only what are you going to do one day to generate money, but who's my husband going to be? Who's my wife going to be? You are just a little person and you have to make lifetime decisions in that time. And I recall a conversation I had with my team about a year ago, because one of them is also quite young. And I said to her, just be kind to yourself and the decisions that you have to make in this time, because just realize how many seasons you are going through in this small period of your time, of your life. If you think just up until 20 years, it's this part of the rest of your lifetime. But most of the decisions happen here. And that just made me realize is how important identity is again. And if you can have people around you, and Odette, I so understand what you say with you didn't have people around you that did that, but we can be different and we can create that space to be those people so that others can have that around them. Because look at the decisions that we have to make in this short period of time. Who's speaking into the lives of kids? Who's speaking to the lives of leaders and teenagers and those kind of things? Because again, we say these things happened in the first part of our life. and it determined a lot of what was happening next. So it happens two ways. I mean, we speak about this. We learn through mentors or mistakes. And I don't think that you learn through a mistake, Odette. I think there were plenty of times in my life where I also was like, well, it's up to me now to make this happen. And I think you got to that point where you were like, okay, well, it's just up to me now. I'm going to do this.
Was it the Tiger Wheel and Tire in Alberton in Voortrekker, just off Voortrekker? Now listen to this, all right? So speaking about what Dr. Janine just spoke about, all the decisions that you have to make within your life. Interesting, I never thought about who I'm going to marry. I just always thought I was going to get married at 28. That was the only thing I had about marriage. That was it. Like at the age of 28, I'll get married. So maybe, I was oblivious to all of these decisions that goes on. But Tiger Wheel and Tire, I went to England in 2001. I played cricket there for 6 months. I came back and my dad said to me, okay, you got to go work. You're not going to just sit here at home and do nothing. You're going to go to work. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And then what he did is he set up an interview with one of his friends in business. And he was the owner at the time of Tiger Wheel and Tire in Voortrekker Avenue. And I remember driving there. I was so nervous going into the meeting. And, I'm sitting with the owner of this company. I mean, and we've known Tiger Wheel and Tire for many years because we always drove past there. And here I'm sitting in the office, in the boardroom of the CEO or the owner. And, he's doing an interview with me. And the one thing that I remember so strongly is sitting in that room is I don't want to be here. I don't want to work here. I know I need to work. I know I need to earn money, but it was just something, and it was nothing wrong with the person or the company. I just knew that this is not the destination that I'm going to take within my life. And so it's very interesting that you had a similar moment in front of Tiger Wheel and Tire. And what I want to say here, or the question I want to ask here is, and this is maybe for the audience, it might be a rhetorical question, but are you driven by pain or are you driven by pleasure? Because at the end of the day, those are the two driving forces that's going to be in your life. It's either going to be somebody that sits with you and tells you, hey, you can become this great, incredible person, like I had with Will Morney, Uncle Morney. Or it's going to be, Mr. Erasmus, that encouraged you to be who you are and find out your identity. Or it's going to be this teacher that's going to say that there's no future for you. It's either going to be pleasure or it's going to be pain. And we have to decide, are we going to succumb to what is being said? I thank God you never just took those words I did and you said, I'm going to show you, I'm going to be better. And I'm thinking about the power we have, because if we look at this, that and I also had some situations where people told me that you will amount to nothing. And, thank God we didn't listen to that, but it did, form some part of your life. But the power of words and the power of conversations, and we have the ability and the opportunity today, because we're no longer teenagers, to shape the destiny of people's life. Or, for the good or for the bad in the conversations we have. And it might be ignorant conversations. It might be, it's just a saying, because, I've also heard that, it's the whip with your ass whip. It's terrible to think about that. You're literally telling somebody that you're going to grow up on a dumpster. You're going to be an orphan. You're going to be on a dumpster. You're going to be on the streets. What words are we speaking into people's future and into people's destiny? And so there are these two aspects that we need to look at. Am I going to be driven by pleasure or am I going to be driven by pain? Because both of them is going to come in your life. You're going to have the moments where people are going to root for you, and you're going to have the moments where people are going to speak down, speak negative, speak condemnation over your life, over your dream, over an event, over, a project that you want to start. You're going to have those two perspectives of people, and we should not succumb to those perspectives. And hopefully today, for those of you listening, you can see that there are not just one way or one perspective. There are multiple perspectives. There are these two elements. And we can tell the success stories today of coming or growing up, having both of those experiences within life. I want to maybe just shift a little bit in the conversation and ask the question is that, are you aware of a conversation that you had with somebody that changed their destination, of their trajectory of their life? Something that we had. Have you had a conversation with somebody that you know, maybe they shared it with you, or maybe you saw the result of that conversation that has been life-altering?
I have the privilege of working with women, and quite often they are in fragile emotional states because life happens, and we live in a society where men are celebrated and women are tolerated sometimes. And while all of them have a story, one of my clients in particular kind of joined because she wasn't sure, and she was like, well, I'm not getting this right by myself, but I've got to get this done. And the first conversation I had with her involved me saying, honestly, what I believe to be true is that she's amazing, that she's an absolute expert at what she does. And she's withholding her gift from the world because people have said to her that you're not good enough. And she's hearing the voice of her dad or the voice of someone who said, "Daar's nie hoop vir jou nie, daar's net die ashoop." So those voices are playing louder than the truth. And the truth is she's flippant fantastic at what she does. And that negative voice is amplified in her life. And I said to her, well, actually, I don't agree. I think that it's a way of you withholding your gift to the world. And the moment you realize just how awesome you are, the rest of the world is going to realize it too. But because you've chosen to hide, the world doesn't see your awesomeness. You don't get to go and tell everyone. You don't get to help people. I said, and the reality is that you have to go. It's our obligation. I honestly believe it's our obligation to go and share our gift with the world. If you don't, it's like a puzzle piece that's missing a piece. Like there's a hole in the picture. And she signed up and she's been working with me for probably a year now. And she has gone from spinning her wheel the whole time like a hamster to doing stuff that's freaking amazing and super scary. And this morning she sent me some stuff and I gave her some feedback, and she came back and she said, as always, you are correct. I was playing it small, onward and upward. And that for me is like, yes, this is why I do it. Because she could have chosen to sit down in the corner and go, "Daar's nie hoop nie, daar's net die ashoop." She didn't do that. She said, yes, I hear it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying those voices don't exist, but I'm choosing differently. And I have the privilege of sowing into their lives. I have the privilege of speaking into their lives on a weekly basis. Through the book, I have the privilege of speaking into the lives of people who we don't realize it, but sometimes all you need to do is just have a conversation with someone. Impact doesn't require you to have conversations all the time necessarily. With Dr. J, it was that one teacher. With you, it was Meneer Erasmus. It's that one person, but sometimes it's one moment. And sometimes all you need is that moment for that season. Like Dr. J said, that this is a hard season for me and I needed a word of encouragement now, for now. I was reading something interesting, which is completely off topic, but totally on point. This morning, I want to say it was in Luke 10, maybe. Don't know. No, I lied. It was Acts 20, the final act of Paul. If you unpack it, Paul is getting ready to go through a really tough time. He's getting ready to go and face a trial. And in that time, instead of cowering away and, oh man, lick my wounds, I feel so sorry for myself, you must feel sorry for me. In that time, the chapter starts off with, he went here and he encouraged the believers. He went there and he encouraged the believers. What do leaders do? They encourage others. He didn't in the time when he could have 100% said, yo, this is the hardest time of my life. I don't have anything to give you. Come and pray for me. Come and sing for me. Come and help me. Go find me a David's that's going to play music until my spirit lifts. He didn't do that. He went to the believers, and in the time that was the hardest for him, he encouraged others. That's our job. That's the job. That's the job of every single person on earth, because we all have capacity to be leaders. If you're alive, you're a leader. Klaar. Sorry.
Amen to that. If you're alive, you're a leader. Dr. Janine, conversation that changed people's life.
I think there's many we don't know about, because I don't think people often voice these things, but there are times when people do speak about it. And I also feel very privileged and honored to have the books that I have. And a lot of the feedback comes through things like that, through the book. I have this one lady that carries my book in her. So there's two versions. There's a thicker version and there's like the small print or the first version. And she's got the little one in her handbag and she carries it with her because it's about 10 principles. And she says literally at times she pulls out the book and go and look at by now she knows the principles. Then she goes and look, what is the principle and how can I get, because there's a lot of formulas and frameworks in each chapter. And then she will go and see like what can I apply to it. And that in her life has made a huge difference. Through the podcast, we've heard how we've changed and impacted people's lives through speaking, through coaching. I think we are in a very to get to walk these journeys with people and have an impact and influence on their lives. But another example that Odette doesn't even know, but she changed my life was something she said many years ago. We were still living in the old house and Gilles he was traveling day and night and night and day. I mean, it was ridiculous the amount of flights he was doing. And I remember I just got to her one day and I'm like, how do you do it? I can't sleep at night. Like, I can't sleep at night. I can't focus during the day. I am tired. I'm raising twin babies and 2 other kids. It's tough. Like, what do you do? And she just gave me the word. And it's probably Proverbs, Odette. It's so a part of me that I don't go and look. But the point of the scripture is he gives rest to the beloved. And that was just, Odette, here we go, bam, drop the mic, end of the story, end of conversation. We didn't ever speak about it again. But maybe you didn't know that changed my life that day. And literally from then on out, I was able to sleep. I was able to handle. I was able to carry the weight. I was able to transition just because of the words that were spoken over my life that day.
I just wanted to pause for a moment because I think that is absolutely just incredible. Odette, you spoke about, what is that moment where somebody makes a decision that, they choose to be different. I'll phrase the question this way for both of you is, what do you think the conditions needs to be for a conversation to turn into a defining conviction in somebody's life?
Heart posture. It always comes down to the heart posture. We encounter people all the time that both want and need support, encouragement, help, the next step, or just an ear to listen to. However, how many times have you given someone the exact same advice and seen on the one end it works and on the other end it doesn't? What's the difference? The difference is the heart posture. Sometimes people tell you stuff because they actually just wanted to complain and they just wanted you to feel sorry for them. And actually all they wanted from the conversation was for you to listen and say, I'm praying for you. They don't actually want encouragement. They just want you to acknowledge that they're unhappy. Their heart posture is not, I want to get out of this. Their heart posture is not, I'm looking for a different way. And that's okay. Cool. However, there are people who come to you with a heart posture of, I need to know, how do I shift? What is the thing? And sometimes they don't even have the words. They don't know what question to ask you, but you know that there's something that you need to lift. And their heart posture is, I need help. I need support. I need encouragement. And in that moment, you can say anything, really. Because if your heart posture is right, you will hear exactly what you need to hear. It's got nothing to do with my eloquence. It's not got nothing to do with my vocabulary. The Holy Spirit will give me the words to say, but those words will land exactly right for that person whose heart is ready to receive it. That's the condition. That's the only condition that matters. Because everything around that gets determined, and the effectiveness of that gets determined by what is my heart posture in that moment.
Do you think there's driving forces that that shifts the heart posture to come into alignment, to come to a place where they are ready to receive? Do you think there's contributing factors towards that? Is there something that the individual can do and can work on to be in that place or that position?
It comes down to this. You don't know everything. You don't have all the answers. We were never meant to do this by yourself. It's that whole I surrender. People who can't surrender can't receive. And it's not you have to surrender to me. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the be all and end all. This is not about me. But it's the attitude of Dr. J knows something that I don't know. Perhaps in this moment, I need to humble myself. There's that H word. Humble yourself. Imagine. It's a hard thing to do, to say, actually, I need help. It's a hard thing to do, to say, I don't have the answers. It's a hard thing to say, I thought that I was doing the right thing and everything around me is breaking, so maybe it's not the right thing. If you are not able to do that, then the smartest person with the best, quickest, cheapest, smartest long-term solution is never going to change your life. You have to admit that you need their help, and then you have to accept that the blessing is in the instruction. So you've got to follow through with the instruction, otherwise you still don't get the blessing. Like, it's simple, but it's not. And it's a poignant topic for me because I had a conversation earlier today with someone who is simply a fool. Guys, there are people who are fools. I'm sorry. What makes you a fool? Your stubbornness, the hardness of your heart makes you a fool. It's got nothing to do with your brain, your capacity, your mental acuity. None of those things matter if your heart is hard. But if you've got a soft heart and a surrendered heart, then you can learn.
I think I can add to that with two things, is coachability and a decision. Because we can sit in front of people and coach them for months. But if they're not open for that, that's why we have a certain target market of certain people, because not everyone can do this. So coachability is a big thing. And the second thing is a decision. Is that person needs to come to a place of decision to choose that I want to change. They have to choose that their heart posture is going to be different. I've been surrounded by a lot of teens over the weekend, and it was incredible for me to watch them and how they struggle. And I was like, why do you want to struggle like that? You are one decision away from a win, but you decide that you're going to struggle and you're going to complain and you're going to do this and you're going to be hurt. And I'm not talking about a specific one. It was having a field day looking at all of them. It was just teens, but adults is exactly the same thing. I sit in a boardroom and I'm like, you are one decision away from changing this season or this thing in your life, but you just refuse to take it because you like the suffering more. It's that heart posture, it's coachability, but it definitely starts with the decision. Just do the thing right from the start. That is my decision. Why must I struggle? Some people just like to struggle and they choose that. So people think, I'm just not going to choose. I'm not going to make a decision. I'm just going to see where this goes. And you made the choice to struggle. Or you can immediately get your heart posture ready. Because all of those are choices. And then you can make a choice to start with it. In the beginning of the year, I said to my team, you have to focus on this year. Is how quickly can you return back to baseline when stuff happens? When you have a bad day, when you and your husband or you and your wife have a fight, how quickly do you return back to baseline? It's a choice. Otherwise, you're going to sit in that thing. I was saying to another, like a cell group, a church group, I was telling them the other day, as a joke, but there's lots of truth in that. I said to them, time is moving so fast. My husband and I don't even have a proper time to fight. We don't have time to fight anymore because there's just another thing. And I said to him, we have to behave and we have to get things right because there's so many decisions that has to happen because things happen so fast. We don't even have time to do a proper fight. Like I told him, I miss that, man. We can't even take each other out a little bit. But that's not just our reality. It's most people's reality. Now, they did fight and they did have that argument, so that's on their mind. Plus, they fought with the kids. Now that's on their mind. Now they go to work, they fight a little bit more. There's more on their mind, and it just becomes this mountain of things. But you can reset that by one decision, by that one heart, and by becoming coachable.
Henry Ford said, if you believe you can, or you think, or you believe you can't, you're right. And so whether you make a decision, or you don't make a decision, you've just made a decision. One of the decisions, you made on purpose and you're in control. The other one, you probably made sitting back, and to an extent, you're not in control. Because you refuse, to take that step to make that decision. And I can just encourage people, rather live your life on your terms and your basis where you've made those decisions. Whether it's a right or wrong decision, you can always pivot, you can always make another decision. But it's so important that you take control and make that decision. Yeah, coachability, I think it's such a interesting topic, and it's not just in a professional setup. I think it's the aspect a little bit more is, are you able to be taught? Are you able to receive wisdom and say, hey, this is great, I haven't thought about this. You spoke about, surrender, Odette, to an extent that, it all comes together. Is, do you have the ability to realize, look into your life and realize, hey, I need to adapt, I need to adjust. It's not about changing who you are. It's simply adding a new skill, adding a new concept, adding something that changes you. I mean, I know both of you for many, many years, and also know the time when Jill was traveling a lot, Dr. Nina, you mentioned. But I also know that you were in the Word at those times. It's not that you were not in the Word, yet Odette shared something in the Word that just sparked. And so you could have easily be like, oh, but I'm in the Word. I do read the Word. I know the Bible. First, it's like, hey, I want to surrender, submit, call it whatever you want to call it, be in a place, in a position where I open my heart and my mind to receive. Rob Thompson said, advice is never advice if you don't take it. So you can't ask for advice and somebody gives you advice, then you don't take it. Then it wasn't advice. Then you were looking for that opinion. Then you were looking for, sympathy. I've also seen it in my life, Odette, is that I've realized this very, very early on in ministry, that people don't want advice. They want sympathy. They want you to hear them out. And to an extent, that is part of counseling. That's part of listening to people. That's part of caring for people, where they can get out what they're going through. But how do we move from here? We can't sit week after week, month after month, year after year, and just speak about the conditions, speak about the situations, speak about what I'm facing. Somewhere we have to stand up and then make that decision and move forward. And so absolutely the ability to be teachable, or at least be open for a fresh perspective. Over the last 2 days, I was listening to the podcast. I think it's George Janko that had Alex Hormozi on his podcast. And Alex shared something that I heard from Simon Sinek, where he said, I've got strong beliefs loosely held. I have strong beliefs loosely held. And it simply means this, or this is what it means to me, is that I am convicted in what I believe, but I'm open when a new truth or a new thought, comes to the forefront that needs to shift within my life. I don't think we can just have this rigid mindset that this is how things is. People can do to get themselves in that place. Are there things that, or have you recognized, let me rather rephrase this, have you recognized people that are open to receive from you when you speak to them?
So if I understand you right, you're asking what are the characteristics of teachable people?
Yeah. From what you know, or even in your own life you've seen, how have you, how do you recognize that when you speak to somebody, these people are teachable? They're willing to receive from what I'm going to share with them.
She said heart, and I have not actually ever heard somebody described it in such a beautiful way, but even your body language will show you. When you speak to somebody, even if it's over the telephone, even if it's over a Zoom call where the camera's off, you hear in their voice if there is oomph behind that person. Are they going to take this and run? Or it did not even touch sides. Like you can hear it immediately. So I think body language is a big thing. You can hear it in their voice. You see it in their action, because what I've also seen is there are people that's a yes man, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this. And we're going to, oh, that's a beautiful idea. And like, oh man, I can't wait to do that. And then nothing happens afterwards. So I think there's stages and steps towards that, but it starts with body language, how they receive the message, and then what they do about it. It takes me back to the parable of the talents. Some is going to bury that advice, and others is going to multiply that advice. And that's where I see the fruit. So the word also says you will know them by their fruit. That's how I see it. Like, what do they do with you give them? I call it the management mandate. So I really honestly believe none of us have an excuse to make a success of our lives. And I'm not talking financial, whatever success means to you, whether it's family, whether it's finances, it doesn't matter. But none of us has an excuse, because the management mandate, where God speaks to us in Genesis, where he says, go out, multiply, subdue, do all these things, you know, but there are going to come people in your life that's going to give you certain instructions that you need to follow in order to go to the next level. If you are teachable, you're going to multiply, you're going to subdue, you're going to make more, you're going to do something with that, and you will be known by your fruit. That's how I see it.
I 100% agree, Dr. J. My response would have been, what's their fruit? What have they done before? Show me where you've done this before. And then the natural counter argument to that is, well, I've never had a coach. Okay, but have you followed instructions before? If you can't follow a simple instruction, if your boss says to you, hey, you've got to do it this way, can you do what you were asked to do? Do you have integrity? What is integrity? Did you do what you said you would do when you said you would do it? If the answer to that question is no, then actually you and I cannot work together. Like, no. So it's definitely about the fruit. And it does, Dr. J is 100% correct. We can hear you. I can tell that you are not listening. I can tell that you are not going to do this thing. And the moment those little sensors pick up that there's something wrong here, then we also go, okay, bye, Felicia.
I can just summarize it as change behavior. I think that's what both of you are saying. You know, there's got to be action to what is being said. There's got to be fruit. I remember Dr. Janine at the leadership boardroom. One of the members there presented their business, and they allowed the people in the room, you know, to give them some advice on where they're leaving money on the table. And the gentleman that was presenting, I mean, I don't know their business, but I just heard some figures in excess of hundreds of millions a year. I mean, and what absolutely struck me is when the meeting was done, he had a couple of people in the room from his team, and he said to all of them, let's all gather around, let's go to the next room, and let's quickly have a look at everything that was said, and let's see which of these things you can implement. I was like, why? Like, they're not going to wait a day, a week, a month. You know, well, you don't know my business, you know, you don't know where we're at. He literally took all the things that was said in that meeting and he put action to it. And I'm like, wow, you know, if you know this individual, I mean, he doesn't come across maybe as teachable. You know, he's very convicted on what he believes, and, you know, he'll challenge you if he believes he needs to challenge you. And so if you just look at him from afar off, you'll think like, he's not going to take advice. But the action, the behavior that is changing, for me was absolutely phenomenal. And for me, that is the thing that I'm looking towards the last couple of years, is I'm looking at change behavior. Something my wife mentioned, you know, a couple of years ago, we were just speaking about, you know, sin, repentance, forgiveness, you know, we were just going through a time in our life, we were looking at these things and we're like, what does it really mean to forgive someone? What does it really mean to repent? What does it really mean to change? And we came, and she actually mentioned, I think she heard on a podcast with Caroline Leaf, that says the best form of repentance is change behavior. And so since then, I just look at this, we need to see change behavior. Because if you still behave the same way, have you changed? If you still behave the same way, have you grown? If we still throw a tantrum then maybe we're still a kid. We just wear different clothes. One of my friends from school, I met him in the gym. Yes, this was like maybe 10, 12 years ago. And I said to him, hey, man. Or he told me, he says, I drove past the church the other day. And I'm like, why didn't you come in? And he looked at me, he's like, and I don't go to church. And he was shocked if I asked him, what's the reason you didn't come in? And I then looked at him, I said, so when you drive past the Dross, at that time, there was a place where people used to care. I said, do you just drive past or you drive in? And he just smiled and he looked at me and he's like, okay, next time I'll drive in. And I realized this is that, there are still people that have the behavior of when we were at school. Because at school, it was about every weekend or every evening, we want to go to the pub and we want to get something to drink. And if you do that, great, you continue. But I just realized I want to change my behavior. It's no longer about me going out with friends. I've got a wife, I've got a kid, I've got responsibilities. I never used to play golf on a Saturday because that was the day that I spent with my wife, where other men, and once again, if you play golf on a Saturday, go for it, enjoy it. I'm simply saying is that if nothing changes in your life over a period of time and you don't have changed behavior, the question is, have you grown? Have we matured? If we're still doing the same things we did years ago, if we're still making the same mistakes we did years ago, Albert Einstein said it famously, is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And so we need to come to the place, and maybe this is the conclusion of, the question is, what are the conditions that a conversation can change into defining conviction? Is that we need to have changed behavior. We need to take action to what is being discussed. We need to be in a place where we ensure that our heart and our posture and the way that we present ourselves in these conversations can pull from that conversation. Proverbs 20 verse 5, wisdom is like a deep well. It takes some understanding to draw it out. You have to be in a place where you are willing to learn from somebody, because I need what you have. I need what you carry. Any final thoughts that you have concluding on today's discussion? Maybe one last conversation that you had that changed the trajectory of your life or a season within your life, or just anything you want to add in conclusion to our topic today?
Live today like nobody else so that you can have a future like nobody else.
I agree with that, Odette. I think besides that mic drop moment, I think the older I get, the more certain I am that as children, we knew exactly who we were. But then adults started talking us out of it. Maybe we need to go back to that little child, because you knew exactly who you were. And you need to go coachable and make some decisions so that you can move out of the place that you are now.
This has definitely been a conversation that has changed the way that I think about a lot of things. There's so many power statements that you've made. Once again, here's my notes of what was said or what I heard. And so this is definitely one of those. If it has been one for you as well, in the comment section, just let us know what really stood out for you. What are some of the conversations that you are going to have as a result of hearing the wisdom within the room we had today? In conclusion, I want to say this, is that your life is based on a true story. Keep on writing your story. Until next time, this is Off Topic On Point.